Thanks for staying with your Feel Good Breakfast show. Expresso here on SABC3 with all the Feel Good content coming your way. But we know this, there is so much beauty in the world, and more especially the underwater kelp forest at the tip of Africa. And that's what we can learn from the breathtaking My Octopus Teacher feature documentary that's just been released to critical acclaim. It is so fantastic. It follows the story of Craig Foster, who in 2010 was debilitated by adrenal fatigue and decided to free dive in the freezing waters every day to revitalize himself. What a story.
Yeah, now during this practice, he started to film his experiences underwater, and in time, a curious octopus captured his attention. They developed an unlikely bond, and Craig was able to capture the octopus's entire life on camera. There's so much more to the story, and the director of this proudly South African production, Pippa Ehrlich, joins us this morning to tell us more about it. Pippa, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
How did the idea come about to turn Craig's experience underwater into a documentary? And of course, what have you personally gotten out of this entire filming experience?
Well, the idea to turn it into a documentary I think it was something where Craig had not made a film for almost 8 years because he was burnt out after working very hard for a long time. And then he fell in love with this incredible ecosystem. And for a while, he realized that he kind of got his filmmaker's passion back. But he didn't know what story he wanted to tell. And at the same time, he'd been having this incredible experience with this octopus who he followed for a year. And he was looking at all sorts of stories, but then at some point, a light just went on in his head, and he realized that what he had with this octopus was so, so special. And by miracle, even though he didn't realize he was going to make a film at the time, he'd managed to capture so much of what they had gone through together.
And what's your takeaway from this entire experience, the filming of this documentary?
This has been the most enormous privilege for me. Firstly, to have the opportunity to work with a story like this as a storyteller, but what's been more transformational and profound for me is the fact that in the making of the story, I've spent almost every day of the last 4 years outside in nature and underwater in the kelp forest. And to spend that much time in the natural world, connecting to the natural world, has an incredible effect on you. And it's taught me more than I ever thought that I would learn from making a film.
This is absolutely fantastic, Pippa. I know that you also hope that the documentary will contribute to the global campaign to protect 30% of our oceans by 30 by 30. Can you tell us more about the message that you're hoping to get across through this film?
What's very, very important at the moment is to understand that the ocean, in fact, the natural world, is our life support system as human beings. We cannot survive as a species unless we start to look after the natural world that keeps us going. And biodiversity, which is the kind of community of animals and plants that we share the world with, is really the immune system of our planet. And we need to look after the healthy places in our oceans that contain that biodiversity. And that's the idea behind 30 by 30, which is to protect 30% of the wild parts of our ocean that we have left. And ensure that those act like kind of savings accounts for future generations of human beings.
And it's so important to have these conversations because protecting our oceans or nature in general is not just a one-sided thing. It involves every single one of us to do our bit in our personal capacities. Yeah. But Pippa, back to the documentary, diving in the freezing kelp forests and recording an animal's full life is not easy, I can imagine. What are some of the challenges, you were met with while you were in this process?
So the first challenge that I had to deal with personally is the fact that this is truly experiential filmmaking, and Craig wanted to make the film without scuba gear and without wetsuits. The first thing I had to do if I wanted to be involved was actually adapt my body to be able to dive in the Atlantic, which can be, 8-10 degrees at times,
wow,
without wearing a wetsuit. And that process took more than 6 months.
Well, this is incredible, and it's such a groundbreaking process that you've gone through here. But we know that the film's done so well already, going and receiving 8 nominations for the renowned Jackson Wild Media Award, more than any other film. Yes, a round of applause between myself, Kuhle, and the cameraman. But we know that you also won Best Feature at FX. You're just really ticking off all those lists. How does it feel to have this level of recognition and the positive response that the film has gotten?
It feels amazing.
Yeah.
It also feels completely overwhelming, especially this is my first feature film. I could never have hoped to have received this kind of response from festivals like Wild Screen and Jackson Wild and EarthX. Obviously, it feels really, really good that other professionals are recognizing the value of what we've created. But I think what's more powerful for me is hearing the emotional response that people have to the story and hearing people say things like, you know, we need to really think about why we think that we're above nature as human beings and start reassessing our relationship with the natural world and our value systems when it comes to nature.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Well done. Congratulations, Pippa. This is beautiful to you and your entire team who've put in so much work, so much hours, so much time, but really at the core of it, so much passion to bringing this to life in such a beautiful way. Thank you.
Thank you. And it was a huge team that made this film and really amazing post-production team in Cape Town called The Refinery, amazing composer called Kevin Smuts, an amazing international team as well. And also amazing that Craig could share his story with such vulnerability and authenticity. So thank you,
Salute.
Everyone who was involved as well.
That was the director of the proudly South African production, my Octopus teacher, Pippa Eilich. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Now, for some truly remarkable underwater encounters, just do yourself a favor and watch this film.